Hi and welcome to the next class of English for Banking. So today we will be looking at grammar concepts again and some vocabulary to keep you interested. Now I know that grammar can be a little monotonous at times. I do not blame you. But remember that if you do not get your grammar basics right, then you're never going to learn the language right. Okay, so even with a very limited vocabulary, okay, even if you do not know fancy words, no one needs to know fancy words in the first place. Even if you speak very, in a very simple manner, remember that you cannot afford to make grammar mistakes as an adult who has had 14 years of school education and 3 or 4 years of college education. Okay. Now, the problem with most students, as far as I can see, is a bad grasp of grammar in the first place. Okay, so if you believe that you are making a few mistakes, number one, you need to identify what mistakes you currently make. Correct? So the problem is, several times we believe that we speak the language right, but unfortunately, until someone says, you know what, this is wrong, this is how it should be, we never realize that we have been speaking incorrectly for a long time. Okay. Now, the Cantus question that I discussed gave me an idea of, where we are wrong. We will be discussing that a little while later today. But remember that if you cringe about monotonous grammar classes, remember that it's there for a reason. Okay. So most of us do not speak correct grammar. That's the problem. All right. Next, we go to our class on advanced concepts, fourth class of our advanced concepts. As usual, we will be starting the day with a book suggestion. Okay. Now today, what I suggest is something that most of us are aware of. People have read these books. People have made movies out of it time in and time again. He is one of our favorite fictional heroes. He is one of the greatest fictional detectives of all times. So, any guesses? Who is this? Anyhow, the author is Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Now, once the hero of the series, Sir Arthur actually, quite literally, killed him off, okay, in one of his stories. Now, it's a series of stories that we are talking about, and Sir Arthur actually killed the main character. But most of the world could not take it in that their favorite fictional hero was dead. So they wrote to Sir Arthur, they expressed their intense hatred at his work, killing off such a loved superhero of sorts. Okay, and then the writer, distinguished writer, brought him back to life. Okay, so in the fictional universe, we understand that, yes, Sherlock, Gurunath, yes, it's an English class again. Yes, it is indeed Sherlock Holmes. Okay, so have you read Sherlock Holmes novels, Sushanta and Gurunath? Anyhow, let's go on. He is one of the most eccentric characters ever, and he's been played by Tony Stark, sorry, Downey Jr. And then, I don't know, whenever I see Downey Jr., I always tend to think of him as Iron Man, Tony Stark. Okay, So Sherlock, well, he did play Sherlock Holmes in 2 installments, and then Benedict Cumberbatch, yes. Okay, so who do you think is a better, Sherlock? Is it Benedict Cumberbatch from the TV show Sherlock, or is it Robert Downey Jr. from the film Sherlock Holmes? And there is also another TV show based on, Holmes and Watson, and that's called Elementary. So Elementary is, a TV show based out of English studios, I guess, not American. So, Gurunath says, Sherlock, Robert, or my all-time favorite. Yes, Robert Downey Jr. Watched both the movie and the series and also read the books. So, Shanta, very good. Benedict Cumberbatch for sure. Okay, right. I guess Benedict Cumberbatch makes more of his eccentric character, I guess. All right, but we also need to remember that he has more screen time. Okay. So, Sherlock Holmes is one of the most beloved characters that we've ever read, right? So, there is this complete works of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the complete Sherlock Holmes collection. It's one of my favorite possessions at home. Okay, so if you want to read all of it again, okay, the Hounds of Baskerville, the Speckled Band and all that, please make sure that, you start reading all of it again. It'll be the best 1 month of your life. I guess it will take 1 whole month to finish the entire book. Okay, because some are, for example, the Study in Scarlet is slightly longer. It's a slightly longer read, while the Speckled Band is something that can be finished, just like that. All right. So, so enough about Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and Sherlock Holmes. Hey, so Shanta Gurunath, I think I asked you during the previous class, do you have any book recommendations? Would you like to, suggest books to others? Do you want to discuss? Please come, come on and let me know. Make use of the commenting forum, and we'll discuss that book. Okay. So remember that we do all this to improve our language skills. Okay. So good language comes from good reading. A quick recap of what we did just 20 minutes earlier. We did active voice. We did direct and indirect speech. Okay, so a quick recap on that. Active voice is what comes to you and me naturally. We put the doer in the subject place. Okay, so I say, 1 minute, just a minute. Okay, so the active voice is what comes to us naturally, as I said. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle wrote the Sherlock Holmes series. Okay, so the main verb here is wrote. Who wrote? Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Okay, so you put the subject first. Okay, and that is your active voice. What happens when Sherlock Holmes series, the object comes first? The Sherlock Holmes series was written by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. The doer comes last, and remember, the doer in this particular format is not mandatory. That is passive voice. Okay. Now, in the first case, active voice, the focus is on the doer. In the second case, the passive voice, focus is on the object. Okay. So, that is the difference between active and passive voice. Then we dealt on direct and indirect speech. Okay. Just a second. The monk who sold his Ferrari. Okay, so Shanta. Good. The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Shiva Trilogy, yes, Amish Tripathi. Your dreams are mine now. Half boyfriend, both for beginners. All right. So we'll discuss all of this probably very soon. Okay. Now, half boyfriend, wasn't it half girlfriend? I'm not too sure. I I admit I've read one or two by Chetan Bhagat. Okay. Now, Chetan Bhagat is a very interesting, debate topic. Now, I'm not very fond of his writing, but that being said, it's very interesting, as I said, to note that several people who would not have picked a book all by themselves on their own actually started reading after they read 5 Point Someone. Okay, so I guess I was in college when 5 Point Someone came up, and people were reading it. Even the non-readers started saying, you know what, Deepa, you should read 5 Point Someone. Okay, so it was a very quick read. I read it in one go, and then I realized that it's not just about quality of content, quality of language that matters. Chetan Bhagat has made the younger generation read more, so I'll give him credit for that. Yes, all right. So I also went ahead and read 2 States, and then I watched the movie as well. Okay, so Shanta, same happened with me. Yeah, all right. So you also concur, saying people who initially weren't reading started reading after picking up Chetan Bhagat. Yes. So yeah, we are indebted to him for that now. All right. Then we saw direct and indirect speech. Okay. So direct speech is all with the punctuation. You just report verbatim in his own words. Indirect speech, you change the words according to certain rules and then present it. Okay. Then Gurunath says, the saint. Hey, I've never read any of these, so I should probably go and look at all of these suggestions, Gurunath. Okay, so because the last CPP was given to you like 25 minutes earlier, I do not think that you would have had time to do it. So we'll discuss this, what goes into this video in the next class probably. All right. So goals for this class would be phrasal verbs, gerunds, infinitives. Okay. So phrasal verbs, what are these? Now, more often than not, we don't use the actual, verb. In place of a verb, we use a phrase. Okay, a phrasal verb is nothing but a phrase that acts as a verb. It has a specific meaning. Okay, so it is a phrase that is made up of a verb and another. So the other word can be a preposition or an adverb. Okay, so it's a phrase in place of a noun. Okay, we'll look at examples here. Bring up. Okay, so when you say bring up, what does it mean? Quite literally, okay, bring up. I place the pen here and then I pick it up, I put it here. No, that's not what it is. When you bring up something, for example, Shanta and Gurunath have brought up several book suggestions. Okay, so when you bring up something, you mention something. Okay, you put it across the table. Okay, so the two parts of the phrasal verb can be separated, remember. Okay, bring it up, bring the subject up, that's what he means. Okay, when I bring up something, I mention something. Okay, and remember that I can actually cut bring, put it here, up, somewhere there, and then have something in between. It's still a phrasal verb. Okay, look at this. Mark was sick and had to miss the party. So don't bring it up. I don't want him to feel bad for missing it. Okay, so bring up is the phrasal verb here. It's actually sandwiched and it has it in between. Okay, then bring on. To cause something to happen. Okay, so when you cause something to happen, you bring on something, and this is used in a negative connotation. Remember that. All right. His lung cancer was brought on by years of smoking. Okay, so brought on, the past form of bring on. Bring it on, baby. Okay, so that is to accept a challenge with confidence. Okay, so when I, let's say, when I say, hey, you know what, I'm going to run the full marathon this year, so I'll do all 42 kilometers. Okay, and then you say, bring it on. Okay, that means you accept the challenge. You say, yes, I will do it. I'll show you how to do it. Okay, you want to have a race, bring it on. I can beat you. Okay, so remember that phrasal verbs act in place of verbs. They aren't actual verbs. Okay, so as a whole, they act as verbs. All right, and there are quite a few phrasal verbs. So Gurunath and Sushanta, do you have any other phrasal verb examples? I'll make it up to you. I'm sorry I did this. I offended you. I'll make it up. What do I mean by make it up? Make up. Okay, so it means that I've done something that has offended you and I want to level the ground. I want to show that I care. Okay, I will make it up for you. I will, act upon it. I'll make you forget it. I'm sorry I offended you. I'll make it up for you. Okay, so any other such examples? Put on, put off. Yes. What is put on and what is put off, Gurunath? In other words, okay, and meanwhile, let's also look at other phrasal verbs. Turn on and turn off. Okay, switch on and switch off. Hey, switch on the lamp. Switch it off. Why is it on while no one is there? So we look at previous class Cantus question. Now I have to discuss this question in detail all over again, although I have done it in the past. Okay. Hey, you know what? None of you got this right. Look at this. The bank refused to honor any letters of credit after the Nirav Modi scandal broke out and shocked the nation. No eyebrows were raised and dash people were surprised. Okay, so is it few or is it a few? Okay, now before we go ahead with this, I distinctly remember teaching you that few is positive, sorry, few, a few, then little, a little. Then I think we also discussed two. Okay. Now, when you say few good men, okay, or little else, too much, all of these have a negative connotation. Okay. When you say few men turned up for the funeral, it means it's so sad that not many turned up. I expected more to turn up for the funeral. Okay, very few did. So this has a negative connotation. Then little else. You know what? He is just jobless, man. Apart from sending a few emails, he has little else to do. Okay, so little again is negative. He's too full of himself. He is too much into gaming, robotics. He's too good to be nice. Okay. So Shanta says, I had few in my mind but decided to go on with a few as it is common. Now remember that in the start of the class I mentioned this Cantus question. And I told you that learning grammar is, yes, monotonous, but it's very important. These are the reasons why. Okay, so when you say that, you picked a few as it is common, this is what happens. For a long time, I'll tell you what happened with me. Okay. Parts of speech, for example, I used to have an apostrophe S and then call it plural form. I was wrong, obviously, correct? Okay. So, the apostrophe is always used for possession, okay? But that's not what happens here. Well, I am guilty as charged, okay? A lot of people do this. Of course, when I was younger and probably not into teaching English, so please don't judge me there, okay? Now, a lot of people tend to do this mistake, okay? So, the apostrophe S is strictly for possessive and the plain S is for plural, okay? Do not mix it up. A lot of people do it, it's very common, that's why we get carried away and then we do the same mistake, okay? Gurunath says few, I mentioned a few, my mistake, yes, okay. So, a few, a little, that is positive. Let's look at the context. It was raining terribly, but I was surprised at that a few students turned up for class. Commonly use yours, in yours faithfully, yes, very good, okay. So, yours, the apostrophe S is always for possessive form, possession form, okay. Now, in this case it is negative, correct. No eyebrows were raised, meaning no one was surprised, okay. Then few people were surprised, meaning not many people were surprised, okay. So, what is the meaning of no eyebrows were raised? So, Shanta, Gurunath? So, while you are not surprised, very good, because typically when you are surprised, you go, right, your eyebrows go up, alright. So, when you are not surprised, no eyebrows are raised. So, here in this case, the answer is few. Do not make the same mistake again, alright. Any questions here? And we move to today's contest question. Go ahead. So, that again was a question to test, on how people deal with common mistakes. We'll of course be discussing that in detail in the next class. Now, we go to a practice question, okay. Ethan Hunt promised Luther that he will dash to save the world from the impending catastrophe while he was chasing Agent Walker in a helicopter atop the Siachen Glacier. Yes, this weekend I went and watched Mission Impossible Fallout, okay, and that is what prompted me to give you this sentence, okay. First and foremost, even before we look at the question, I want to discuss catastrophe. Now, kata is the root word for downward, okay. So, whenever you see kata, it means that there is a a downward movement of some sort, okay. Now, what are the words that you know? There is catastrophe, it means disaster. Okay, so this is a down, this is very downward, obviously. It's a disaster, a natural disaster. So a tsunami, a volcanic eruption, floods. Okay, so these are catastrophes. Then there is cataclysm, which is also very similar in meaning to catastrophe. Then there is cataract. Do you have any idea what category means? Gurunath, category is C-A-T-E-G-O-R-Y. I am talking about cata, C-A-T-A. Okay, cataract. What is cataract? Yes, catalyst. Okay, so it speedens something, but I doubt this has something to do with cata. Okay. Now, I will give you a very funny anecdote. I was discussing root words in another class, and I was telling this class that MAL is negative. Okay, and I was actually discussing malpractice, malfunction, malediction and all that. So, there was this girl in class who quietly looked at me and said, "Ma'am, male." Okay, so by the way, I am not being anti-men here. It's just that it was very funny when she said that. Okay, and not every word has such root word implications. Okay, so a catalyst is a reagent. All right. Anyhow, so cataract is nothing but we all know of the eye problem, the cataract that elderly people pick up. Do you have any idea what the root of that particular context is? Good job there, Gurunath. E is negative, hence male is positive. Brilliant. All right. So, cataract is actually a waterfall. Okay. I'll write it down for you. A cataract is actually a waterfall. Water, from the top of a mountain, it flows down. Okay. There is downward movement. And when people have cataract, okay, they have some waterfall kind of effects on their eyes. Okay, so that is probably what gave rise to the term cataract and eye issues. Okay, so cata is the root word for downward. Now, more often than not, it is associated with something negative, catastrophe or cataclysm. Okay, now while he was chasing Agent Walker in a helicopter atop the Siachen Glacier. All right, so I have discussed your kata. Now we look at this particular question. He will dash. He promised Luther that he will dash to save the world. Okay, so I am looking for something that means he'll do something. Correct? He'll do something to save the world. Correct? So, from the context, I can puzzle out that's the word, that's the phrasal word that I am looking for. Any problem with that? Work up, okay, then work in, work out, work something out, and then none of the above. Now, of all of these, work up, work in do not mean anything, okay. Work out is to exercise. Okay, I work out 3 times a week, I swim, I do 100 squats, okay, all of that would be your work out. All right, then work something out. When you work something out, it means that you will, do something, in this case to save the world. This is your answer. Okay, I will work something out to save the world. Any problems here? Then we go to gerunds. Gerunds are very confusing for quite a few people. Now we do encounter gerunds in our everyday lives. It's just that we don't differentiate between verbs and gerunds. Now, swim, this is the verb form. Okay, swimming. It can be a verb in present continuous, or it can also act as a noun, correct? What are the cases? I like swimming. Swimming is one of my most favorite hobbies. Okay, so in these cases, swimming acts as a noun. What do? We just take a verb and then append ing, make it a noun. This class of verbs, this class of nouns that are, nothing but verb plus ing, these we call gerunds. Okay, now let's look at a few gerunds. When will you give up smoking? Now ask yourself if this is a noun or a verb. In this case, I give up something. Okay, so try to plug something instead of the gerund, the ing word. Okay, it should make sense. In that case, it is a noun, it's a gerund. Okay, now smoking. He was smoking. He was something. In that case, if I put something in place of smoking, it doesn't make any sense, correct? So, he was smoking, that's a verb. Smoking acts as a verb, but in this case, when will you give up smoking? Okay, in this case, it is a noun, a gerund. Okay, she always puts off going to the dentist. Let's go to the dentist. That is just a second, I'm having some system issues. I'll sort it out from my end. Anyhow, so a gerund is something that you use verb plus ing. Okay, so gerunds are typically used when you want to use the noun, okay, and it has to do with actions, running, walking, running marathons, okay. So in these cases we use gerunds. As I said, we use a lot of gerunds. Some cases we do not understand that we are indeed using them as nouns and not as verbs. Okay, so look at this. She always puts off going to the dentist. Then he kept on asking for money. Okay, then Jim ended up buying a new TV. Remember that another test for this is not the main verb, and that's very clear. He kept, ended up, puts off, give up. All of these, by the way, are phrasal verbs. I picked this set of examples solely so that you can, do gerunds and phrasal verbs, the ones that we discussed, a couple of minutes earlier at once. She couldn't help falling in love with him. So, falling in love, couldn't help, okay. So, this is a gerund. It is no use trying to escape. Trying here is used as a gerund. It might be worth phoning the station to check the time. So, phoning again is not a verb, it is a gerund. Okay? So, these are gerunds. Now, we come to infinitives. Infinitive is the base form of a verb. Now, pick a good dictionary whenever you, check for verb meanings. For example, I'll give you attack. Okay, then typically they say to attack is to assault. Okay, then to impugn is to offend. Okay, the dictionary typically defines verbs this way. Okay, the to form comes into the picture. All right. This, the base verb form is called the infinitive. Look at these. I decided not to go to London. To go. He asked me not to be late. To be. Then I asked you not to sing so loudly. I would rather not eat meat. Then I might not come. Okay. Now, in these cases, the infinitive is something that we see very clearly. Okay. So, the infinitive, remember, is the base form. All, what do you call, classification, the customization happens to this base form. Okay. Any problems here? We see, this is some terminology that you will have to understand, because I'll be using infinitive in my grammar lessons, and I want you to think, okay, that's the verb base form. All right. So we'll be doing a bit of vocabulary again. Okay. This we discussed just an hour back. Theo is the root word for God. Okay. So from this you get theology. What is theology? Study of God. L-O-G is the root word for talk, text, speak, words. Okay, and it goes on. L-O-Q also means almost the same. Okay, so when you see theology, it's text on God. Theology, you study God. Okay. Then I told you that LOQ also has to do with talk, speak. Okay. For example, you have loquacious. When you are loquacious, you like speaking, you speak a lot. Okay. I'm probably one of those people. Okay. I like speaking, I like talking, I talk a lot, I can talk at length, I can talk 19 to the dozen. Okay. So that is loquacious. Then there is eulogy. Okay. Now eulogy I've already discussed. EU is good. LOG is to do with speak. You go to a funeral and you speak something nice about the dead person. That's a eulogy. Then there is eloquent. LOQ, as I said, is talk. Eloquent means someone who speaks very nicely, very naturally. Okay. Oh, you know what? This person is an eloquent speaker. Then there is grandiloquent, which is slightly negative. He or she is very verbose. He speaks way too much. Okay. So eloquent is positive. This is negative. Okay. You do too much of something. So, theology is the study of God, as I said. Then we've already discussed theocracy in the previous class, so I'll leave that. Then there is theosophy. Which is the philosophy of God. Okay. Now, quite a few people in the West name themselves Theo. Okay. There was Theo Van Gogh. Okay. Vincent Van Gogh's great grandson or whoever, who was named Theo Van Gogh. Okay. Then Gaia or Geo, that is to do with earth, which is why you have geology, geography. Any other words to do with GEO? Okay. So this is to do with the earth. Okay. Now, why did I pick this particular list of words? These are ancient Greek or Roman gods. Okay. Who is the king of gods, by the way? Greek gods, that's Zeus. Now, when you study mythology, you understand that, the gods have given rise to several root words. Okay, I told you, right, Greek and Latin are they heavily influence the English language. So when you look at English words, you can always go back to the root words. This is an interesting list. Okay, so geology, geography, any other word with geo that you can think of, you can always let me know with the comments. Then there is Chronos. Chronos was the god of time. Gaia, by the way, was the god of earth. Okay, so Chronos was the god of time. So chron is the root word for time. Okay, from this you get synchronous. Okay, syn is same, chronos. Okay, so you put in order of time. Okay, that is same time, you synchronize according to time, you order according to time. Then there is chronology or chronological order. When you put something in chronological order, you put it in order of time. Then there is chronometer. Any device that measures time is a chronometer. Okay. Now another root word for time is tempo, which we have already discussed, from which you get temporary, contemporary. Okay, something that's temporary, meaning it is not permanent. Okay, another word that means temporary is ephemeral. EPHEMERAL. Okay, then tempo. When you deal with music bands, they have something called the tempo. Okay, setting the time, periodical time. All right. Then any other words to do with tempo, you can just let me know. Okay, so chrono. Then you have Morpheus. Morpheus was the god of sleep. Okay, so the term morphine, the drug morphine that puts you to sleep, comes from Morpheus, the god of sleep. Okay, then oracle. How many of you here have watched the movie series Matrix? Anyone? Okay, while you give me the answer to that, let's look at some comments. Fish and chips are taken together as one entity. Brilliant, Sushanta. Yes. So would it be between, among, or amongst? I'll let you decide. As I said, we'll be discussing that question later. Gurunath, work something out. Is there a word work something in? Work in something, that's not a phrasal verb, by the way. You can use it individually. Temporal, very good. Spatial, temporal, very good, Sri Gurunath. Temporal is to do with time. Okay. Okay, all right. So now oracle. Gurunath and Sushanta, you've watched the movie series Matrix, correct? So who is oracle? Oracle foresees what happens. Okay, so she can see the future. Oracle is someone, this was a a mythological person who could foresee future. Okay, so there was also another character in Troy who could foresee future, correct? Who was that? That was Cassandra. Aura, what is aura, by the way? Okay, now let's look at Titan. Titan, titanic proportions. Now in Greek mythology, you had a set of giants. Okay, when you say something is of titanic proportions, it means something that is very large. It needn't just be the size, it can be something that is just grandiose. Okay, then Hercules. Hercules was again a Greek champion. Okay, a very strong person. Aura, root word for oracle. I don't think so, because aura is something to do with, the aura that you have, the mental aura, something that is, around you all the time. I can feel your aura. You have such an intellectual aura around you. Signal, probably. Yeah, okay. Then Hercules, that gives rise to the word Herculean effort. Okay, when you expend Herculean efforts on something, it means that you are very invested in that. You've put in major efforts to crack something, Herculean effort. Then there is Mars and Ares. Okay, Mars and Ares are war gods, from which you get martial arts. Okay, so this comes from Mars. Mars was the god of war. Okay, and then there is also Ares, god of war. Okay, so typically when you, this is the sun sign, by the way. Monstrous, heroic. What is monstrous? Cyclops were one-eyed monsters, I don't know, but they were one-eyed. Then ogres, monstrous people. Okay, Herculean means very intense efforts, Gurunath. Okay, so Shanta says heroic. Yes, very intense efforts. Why not? Heroic efforts indeed. Okay, then Nemesis. Nemesis is the god of revenge. Okay, so when you say someone is my nemesis, it means that, you know, your mortal enemies. Okay, then there is Venus, god of beauty and love. I think Venus is the Greek god. The Roman equivalent is Aphrodite. Okay, so these, okay, the Venice, the term Venice comes from Venus, by the way. Okay, enemy, yes, that is nemesis. Good job, Gurunath. Okay, all right. So that is to do with today's vocabulary. Go and read up on Greek and Roman mythology, their gods. You will find that if you can, you know, figure out the root from Greek and Latin roots, it's very easy to figure out, to puzzle out the meanings of certain hard words. Okay, so that's the class for today. We'll summarize. We did phrasal verbs today, gerunds and infinitives. All right. And then we did a bit of vocabulary as well, and then we discussed Sherlock Holmes. Then, thanks for joining us. Passport members, please go and do your CPP. Today's CPP will be based on you know, the topics that we covered in class. Unfortunately, I haven't set questions to do with Sherlock Holmes though. Next time though, I'll probably try and do that as well. Okay, pop culture references. So the CPP is a set of 10 questions that are suitable for you know, every class. We put in painstaking efforts, Herculean efforts to come up with the questions. So please make use of it. Let us know how it goes. Okay, share it with others. It would be of immense help to you. Okay, all right. See you then. Have a great Monday. Thank you. Bye. Meet you in the next class.